All right, now before we get things going, remember that memberships are now live on my page. So if you want to become a member, go ahead, sign up for that. You get a lot of cool perks for becoming a member in terms of what you have offered to you. And they're going to be constantly updated in terms of what each tier gets. But right now, for example, if you want to get the archive streams that I do, become a member, you'll have access to all of that stuff and so forth. Today, we are going to be discussing Mark Ruffalo, doesn't matter. You guys know him as Hulk. I first heard about him playing Hulk. I actually don't know of him acting in anything else. That's not discrediting anything that he's done. That's more so speaking to my lack of, I'm not a movie buff like that. We've discussed it. But he has some interesting thing to say. Really reiterating that a lot of people that are in positions of power, economic power, that is, not necessarily like governmental power, but both really, they tend to be economically illiterate, and they tend to be socialists or adopt socialistic policies. It's a complete myth that the only people that, for one, will benefit off capitalism or advocates of capitalism are just rich people. It's just complete nonsensical notion because, for one, it completely disregards those of us that are advocates of capitalism that aren't rich, such as myself. And then it completely disregards the fact that you have politicians, people that are, billionaires that advocate for policies that are antithetical to capitalism. And I'll explain why that is the case here in a little bit. But what influenced the video was Mark Ruffalo. He posted, "It's time for an economic revolution. Capitalism today is failing us, killing us, and robbing from our children's future." Now, what in this, he's posting an article by Time saying that how America's elites lost their grip. Now, you can go read this, but it's a bunch of just trash. It's just garbage. It doesn't really speak about how capitalism is failing or anything like that. It's just a bunch of buzz stuff. Like, for example, this guy talking about old tax rates and such. It doesn't even acknowledge the fact that most people, like maybe back in the Gap, that had this top tax rate, they were rather non-existent, or those loopholes were available to them, so hardly nobody hit this actual 70%. But these are all just a bunch of nonsense in terms of what's actually legitimately the issue. A lot of stuff that it's attributed to capitalism is not capitalistic at all. And obviously it talks about how a lot of Democrats are now advocates of sort of normalizing anti-capitalism and such. Now, this is reeks of economic illiteracy, and of course, guys got to get an economic lesson from me. This is sort of what I do, right? But capitalism is the private ownership of goods and services and a free and voluntary exchange of those private goods and services. No matter what the etymology of the term, no matter how Marx used it or anything like that, it is only important that if we are going to have some sort of political discourse or political discussions, the only thing that's important is that we go off of the definition of the actual advocates, the economic advocate of capitalism, which no matter where you define it or who you go to, more so, be it Austrian or Chicago economists, from the Soros to the Rothbards, it's generally understood that capitalism is the private ownership of goods and services and the free and voluntary exchange of those private goods and services. So it has nothing to do with rich people. It has nothing to do with exploitation. It has nothing to do with all of these different buzz terms that people throw out there to act as if they are against capitalism. It has nothing to do with things they attribute to capitalism, such as slavery, which is inherently anti-capitalism, considering that you cannot sell another person involuntarily as such. You cannot do that. That is antithetical to capitalism. It robs people of their private property rights, and their private property right is in self-ownership. So never mind the numerous ways that a lot of people that are against capitalism should actually be looking at the socialistic policies like an example for America. But this whole nonsensical idea that we need this economic revolution because of capitalism is so intellectually dishonest, but it's a lie that is peddled not just by actors and actresses and politicians and such, but also by the educational elites. And this is why I've always long said that the biggest protectors of socialistic policies and of government intrusion in the marketplace is going to always be professors and such, and the educrats and the educational elites. They will always validate the necessity of the state and so forth. And I know a lot of people are going to be in the comments talking about Mark Ruffalo being rich, because he is. I believe he's worth $30 million. None of these, and these are champagne socialists. They always like this, including the politicians. And I wish people understood this, because even if they benefit off of capitalism, or let's say capitalistic approaches, they understand that what they say is purely cosmetic. When rich people do stuff like this, it's their way of trying to deflect any sort of, hey, rich man bad rhetoric from people that quite often supports them. So it's a complete, it's like a shield, right? It's like, hey, look at me, I'm with you guys. And it's purely cosmetic, because they don't exercise or really live out anything that they actually claim to believe in. You're not going to catch Mark Ruffalo giving away all of his money. You're not going to catch him asking to, when he's getting in acting roles, asking for less money, or asking that the people that work in Hollywood that aren't the actors, whether it be the set workers and so forth, he's not going to say they should get paid more. And he'll take a cut because of it. That's not what's going to happen. They don't live near you. This goes for artists, rich artists, athletes, actors, politicians, doesn't matter. All of them, for the most, none of them live in the hood or live even in just basic suburbs or anything like that. They in their little protected, gated communities away from you. And when they show up, you got to pay to see them, like Mark Ruffalo. You got to pay to see them, and they're only there just to wave their hands, kiss a couple of babies and stuff like that. But they don't live near you, and I'm not saying that they even should. I believe if you make a lot of money and you reserve the right to pay a lot of money to live wherever you want to, protected as what have you. I'm just not a hypocrite, and I'm not gonna hate people or pretend like, you know. And this is why you'll always get people that are advocates of further taxation, that are rich people as well, because it's a shield, but they don't extend anything to the logical conclusion. They're not going to be the ones giving money, giving their own personal money. They may even advocate that the government do that, but they understand that through forceful taxation and such, that's them robbing you guys as well. So we know that it's a performative contradiction. We know that he may be a raging hypocrite, but this sort of anti-capitalism. And I want people to understand, and this is what's maybe the most important out of this whole lesson, is that a lot of what people, including a lot of rich people don't just benefit from capitalism. You got champagne socialists, and you got politicians, and a lot of even people that are part of big businesses that have benefited from more socialistic policies. And what I mean by that, I'm meaning that they have got their status illegitimately, meaning through regulation, which has distorted the market, be it in minimum wages, be it in, I don't think people that demonize businesses tend to be a lot of people that don't even know what it takes to be a part of a business or to run a business efficiently. People talked about CEOs, and they look to the richest companies in the world. Look at the CEO making this amount of money. They act like CEOs just sit on their behinds. Anybody that's been a part of any sort of business that isn't, just really any sort of business, you understand that these people don't. That's not generally the case. Even the most CEOs don't even make that much in terms of like being billionaires and stuff like that. That's not really that's not the amount of money that most CEOs make generally on average. Don't have to take my word for that. Look it up. But this whole idea that it's just rich people that are advocates of capitalism is verifiably false. You'll go to advocacy groups that are led by rich people that advocate for more and more regulation in the market. And those regulations, the reason why they advocate that those exist, because it allows them to stay in positions of power and really even corner markets. Because what it does, and those regulations, which unfortunately people don't consider, that because they are economically illiterate, they don't consider the simple fact that the people that benefit the most from those sorts of regulations are people that are already at the top. There's a barrier to entry. Get rid of the regulatory bodies, get rid of the regulations, get rid of the licensing and such, and let the market sort some of that stuff out, because all you're doing is not allowing people to enter the market, or you're making it very difficult for them to enter the market. And this is why big businesses that are massive like that love regulations, the ones that understand that in said regulation, it can price out their competitors. Because it's like, for example, with a minimum wage law, like people advocate for double the minimum wage, and they always point to Walmart. Like every business is just as big as Walmart, and they hadn't hardly ever considered the simple fact that Walmart can sustain itself in doubling minimum wages like that. It's not to say that even they won't make the adjustments, because they absolutely will. And quite often those workers aren't going to benefit from it. People get laid off and such. But businesses that aren't that massive can't sustain it themselves with doubling whatever the federal minimum wage is now. People talking about 15 an hour. And livable wages, right? This generic term that people like to use that doesn't even exist, as if it's the business's job to take into consideration your personal life living standard or your personal life choices that put you in that economic situation, as if everybody's equal. This is the term; these are buzz terms, right? Livable wage, 1% elites, like all these are just 1% like elites in terms of how they use it. I use the economic elites all the time, but these people don't take into consideration that those regulations help hurt these smaller businesses. But not just that. I guess that's part of it. That's probably the biggest part of it. Look, man, economics, or more so, what's take place in, like, using American as an example, the fact that people try to pin it on pure capitalism is just insane. When you look at the people always talk about discrepancies and such between how much money people make. They always talk about rich people get richer, poor get poor. That's verifiably false. But it does sound good, right? They never consider the fact that individuals move up and down weight class, economic classes all the time. They never take that into consideration. But either way, what we have now is not pure capitalism. We'd be benefiting if it were, but that's not what we have. You cannot look at all the different government agencies and the different, all the different forms of taxations, all the different regulatory bodies and all the different regulations from the state level to the federal level, how much money the government steals from people, how much money the government is in terms of $22 trillion worth of debt, how they distorted the market through the Federal Reserve. Like, you can't look at that and say, well, yeah, those are pure capitalism. Like, come on, man. But these champagne socialists, man, they kill me with this. They kill me with this because they don't, under capitalism, no rich person, and this is why it's the most, if the benevolent system, because it does not stop you from being a rich person and giving away all of your money. And I don't know why people's preferable alternative to giving away to rich people, even keeping their money, is giving it to the government, as though they've proved time and time again that they have no incentive to spend your money efficiently. They can't make decisions on behalf of a geographical area of 300-something million people efficiently. That's impossible. But it sounds good, right? Oh, rich. We're all about the rich, education, all this other nonsense. But nothing if we were pure capitalism. So if he's talking about economic revolution, what we need is going to pure capitalism, right? The purest of capitalism, that we can privatize everything. But under that, Mark Ruffalo is free, along with the other champagne socialists, to give away their money. Give it away. Give away their money. They are free to do that. Absolutely free to do that. They can give away their money to whoever, the poor, whoever, whatever organization, what have you. They can pay for people's health care and all of that. Don't push that on the government, reach in your own pocket and give that away. Capitalism allows for them to do that. But they don't do that. These people that it's always these elites. His guy's clearly part of the 1%. He's like, if I say that capitalism is bad, then it'll get the heat off of me as a rich person. Because I'm on your side. That's what they want to see. Like, if I'm a rich person, I ain't apologize for nothing. If I was rich, like, it's like I'm rich. I done did whatever I needed to do to be rich. As long as I got rich through a voluntary exchange or through voluntary exchanges, it is what it is. I ain't apologizing for being rich at all. But champagne socialist, man. And the funny thing is funny, we talk about Marvel and the Marvel Cinematic Universe. A lot of these guys are like mainstream leftists. This is why I never understood how people just look at CEOs and they look at people that are part of just businesses in terms of rich. And they demonize them. And for whatever reason, when it comes to artists, athletes, actors, actresses, they for whatever get the heat off of them, even though they make it quite often way more than what any average CEO makes. Marvel Ruffalo is worth way more than what any average CEO would make. But we talk about CEO pay. Nobody's talking about actors pay. In fact, you'll get all of these poor, look at the Colin Kaepernick situation. You'll get all of these people that aren't having money. They'll go, as long as they pay lip service to whatever sort of advocacy or whatever it is that you marginalized status or what have you, as long as they do that, they will get out there and support people being millionaires and be talking out the other side of their mouth, right? But if it's an athlete, actress, or actor, be like, yeah, get as much money as you can. But for whatever reason, if you've come up with a business that it benefits people, be it by worker, be it by whatever product they produce that people consume, service that people utilize, they demonize that. These people are raging hypocrites. There's no other way to describe it. Mark Ruffalo, none of these champagne socialists, none of these politicians, they don't universalize any of their positions. They're not going to give away their money. They can literally give money to the government right now. There's nothing stopping. They can write a check to the government. Government gives you access. Matter of fact, let's go to it. If you wanted to give a gift to the government, this is how you could do it. You can go, I'm on my stream. Right here. You can go to the Treasury. Citizens who wish to make general donation to the U.S. government may send contributions to a specific account called Gifts to the United States. They got you set up. All of these guys can send their money, can write a check right now. They don't have to ask for advocate for taxation. They can reach it in their own pockets right now and give money to the government. Oh, do you think they're going to do that? Absolutely not. They don't. But it sounds good to, well, we got to take care of the poor. We have to take care of the future and all of this sort of rhetoric, right? When they can reach in their own pockets right now and give money, if they think that that's the government's job to sort of even the playing field, if you will, they can give money to them right now. And almost none of them even present that as an option because they don't universalize their position. It's cosmetic. It's purely cosmetic. They don't live near you. You got to pay to see them. They don't universalize any position that they have. The economic illiterate Hulk. So many people within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the actors and actresses have adopt similar positions. And it's funny, for years I've been saying that these people utilize their positions of power to advocate for further socialism and socialistic policies, government state socialistic policies, advocate for leftism, advocate for some sort of social justice. And they piggyback off of comic book characters and they use those positions of power that's given to them because they made the comic book character. They brought it to life, right? In terms of live action. And I've been saying this for I don't know how long. And people call me crazy, like I'm just some conspiracy theorist. I'm just some like conspiracy theorist, right? I'm just a person that makes things up. I'm like, the proof is in the pudding. I didn't know who this guy was. He plays Hulk. He's now worth $30 million. What does he use with his position of power? Demonize capitalism. It's like clockwork. It's like clockwork.